The day I walked into my own mother's retirement party wearing my firm's name on the lanyard around my neck, she looked at me and said, "Don't stand near the head table. That's for people your aunt invited." I was 31 years old. I had just been named the youngest partner at one of the top 3 accounting firms in Vancouver, and my mother was asking me to stand near the coat rack. I didn't argue. I never did. I took a glass of sparkling water from a passing tray and found a spot near the window, and I watched her float across the room toward my Aunt Sylvia, like she always did. Like Sylvia was gravity, and my mother was just something caught in her orbit. That's the thing about growing up the way I did. You don't notice how small you've been made until the day someone outside your family treats you like you're enormous. My mother's name is Sandra. She's not a cruel woman. I want to be clear about that, because this isn't a story about a monster. It's a story about a woman who loved her sister more than she understood her daughter. And the quiet damage that does over 20 years. Aunt Sylvia was the one who had the house in West Vancouver. The one who married a man named Howard who had something to do with real estate development, and always seemed to be in the middle of a very important phone call. Sylvia had 2 sons, both tall, both confident, both named after their grandfather. One was a dentist in Kelowna. The other had done something in finance that nobody fully understood but that everyone spoke about with reverence. I was my mother's only child. My father left when I was 7. Not dramatically, no shouting, no broken plates. He just started being somewhere else more than he was home, and then one morning he was gone completely, and my mother sat at the kitchen table for 3 days and didn't say much. After that, it was just the 2 of us in a 2-bedroom apartment in Burnaby, and my mother worked receptions at a dental office, and we were fine. We were genuinely fine. But Sylvia had more. Sylvia always had more. And somewhere along the way, having more became the same thing as being more. And my mother had absorbed that idea so completely she didn't even know it was there. When I got a scholarship to UBC, my mother told me before she told anyone else. I remember that. She hugged me in the kitchen and her eyes went wet and she said, "I knew you could." That felt real. That felt like her. But by the time we got to Sylvia's house that Sunday for dinner, the story had already shifted. My mother sat across from her sister and said, "Megan's going to UBC in the fall," and Sylvia said, "Oh, accounting? Howard's firm hires UBC grads sometimes," and my mother said, "Well, we'll see," like a scholarship to one of the best business programs in the country was a thing that needed Howard's endorsement to mean something. I was 17. I filed it away. I filed a lot of things away. The Christmas I graduated with distinction, and Sylvia's youngest got his dental license the same month, and somehow the dinner conversation was 90% about him. My mother wasn't malicious about it. She genuinely congratulated him, genuinely smiled, genuinely seemed proud. I watched her from across the table, and tried to understand how she could hold so much admiration for someone else's child and so little urgency for her own. The birthday when I told her I'd passed my CPA exams and she said, "That's wonderful," and then immediately turned to ask Sylvia if her oldest was still thinking about expanding his practice. The Sunday afternoon I called her to say I'd been promoted to senior associate and she said, "I'm proud of you, sweetheart." I still believe her. But then she added, "Your aunt's going to be in town next month. Maybe you can tell her. She knows people in finance." Like my achievement was a thing that needed Sylvia's network to become real. I wasn't angry. That's what I need you to understand. I wasn't angry, I was tired. Tired of being the supporting character in my own life story whenever I was in the same room as my mother and her sister. I kept building anyway. That's what you do. My best friend's name is Priya. She's been my best friend since 2nd year at UBC, and she is the person who first said to me, out loud, "Your mom doesn't actually see you, does she?" We were sitting in her car outside of Tim Hortons in New Westminster after one of my mother's Sunday dinners, and I'd been quiet for 20 minutes. And Priya had let me be quiet. I didn't answer for a long time. I watched a man in a Canada Goose jacket walk past with a coffee cup. "She sees me," I finally said. "She just sees me through Sylvia." Priya nodded slowly. She didn't push it. That's why she's been my best friend for 10 years. The thing was, I had started to wonder if she was right, not in a dramatic therapy session way, just in a quiet 2 a.m. way. When I lay in my apartment in Kitsilano and mentally replayed family dinners, I kept noticing the same pattern. Whenever I shared something, a promotion, a case I'd worked on, a milestone, my mother's first move was always to route it through Sylvia somehow, to see if it registered with her. Like Sylvia was the authority on whether things counted. I didn't understand it then. I think I understand it better now. My mother had spent 30 years feeling like less around her sister. And somewhere along the way, she had started to outsource her sense of what mattered to the one person whose opinion she'd spent her whole adult life trying to earn. It wasn't that she didn't love me. It's that she couldn't fully see me without first checking whether Sylvia would be impressed. That's not cruelty. That's just damage. Passed quietly from one generation to the next. But understanding something and being okay with it are two different things. And I had spent a long time pretending they were the same. The year I turned 30, my firm asked me if I was interested in being considered for partner. I want you to understand what that means in the context of a Big Four accounting firm in Canada. It means 6-7 years of grinding. It means in tax seasons where you don't sleep. It means client files that follow you home and into your dreams. It means being in the office at 7 in the morning and leaving at 9 at night and coming back in on weekends and still feeling like you haven't done enough. It means mentorship and performance reviews and business development targets and the slow, exhausting project of proving, not once but continuously, that you have judgment worth trusting. I had done all of that. I had done it while moving 3 times, while my closest friend from university moved to Toronto, while my relationship with someone I thought I might marry ended quietly and without ceremony over a shared realization that we wanted different versions of the same life. I had done it mostly alone. I had done it in a city that is beautiful and expensive, and often indifferent to the people working inside it. When my managing director called me into her office and said they were putting my name forward, I sat across from her and kept my face professional and my voice level. I said, "Thank you, I'm honored." And then I went to the bathroom on the 14th floor and sat on the closed lid of a toilet stall and cried for about 4 minutes in the way you only cry when something you've been holding your breath for finally happens. I didn't call my mother that night. I ordered Thai food and watched 2 episodes of something I don't even remember and went to bed at 9 o'clock. I told her the next morning, over the phone, on my way to work. She said, "Oh Megan, that's really something." I said, "Yeah, it is." There was a pause, not a long one. And then she said, "Sylvia mentioned Howard's firm just brought on a new partner last quarter. A woman apparently. Isn't that something? Maybe you two would have things to talk about." I said, "Sure, Mom." I hung up and stood outside my building on West Georgia Street for a moment, watching a SkyTrain pass on the elevated track above me. The city was loud and gray and indifferent, and I thought, this is the last time I do this. The last time I wait for something to land with her the way it lands with me. That was the day I stopped trying to make her see me. Not out of anger. Out of self-preservation. My firm announced the new partners in March, at the annual client gala held at the Fairmont Pacific Rim. It's a big event. Every year, the firm invites its top clients, its referral partners, key community stakeholders, the kind of room where people have serious titles and don't need to mention them. The gala raises money for a literacy charity the firm has supported for 15 years, and there's a dinner and a program, and it's genuinely well run. I'd attended 3 times before as a senior associate, sitting at client tables, making conversation, being the capable and polished version of myself that I'd spent a decade learning to be. This year was different. This year, I was being announced. I had invited my mother. Of course I had. She was my mother. I'd mentioned it to her 3 weeks before. Told her there would be a formal dinner. Told her it was important. Told her she was welcome to bring someone if she didn't want to come alone. She said she would come, and she asked if Sylvia could join her, because Sylvia was in Vancouver that week, for something to do with Howard's business. I said yes, because what else do you say? They arrived together. I saw them from across the lobby. My mother in the navy dress she'd bought for a cousin's wedding 2 years ago, and Sylvia in something that probably cost more than my first month's rent in Vancouver. They were early, which surprised me. I was with my managing director and 2 other newly announced partners near the entrance to the ballroom, going over the evening's order of events with the event coordinator. I raised my hand to wave at them. My mother saw me, but before she could take a step, Sylvia touched her arm and steered her gently toward the far side of the lobby, toward a cluster of well-dressed people near the bar. "That must be Howard's contact from the Port Authority," I heard her say, though I couldn't be sure across the distance. My mother went. I watched her go and I felt something close in me that I had been trying to keep open. I turned back to my managing director and smiled and asked a question about the audio setup. About 20 minutes later, I was standing with a small group near the entrance to the ballroom when I heard my mother and Sylvia approaching from behind. They didn't see me at first. I heard Sylvia say, "Well, she said it's an accounting firm dinner, so it'll probably be dry. These things always are. Howard used to fall asleep at these." She laughed. My mother laughed too, the specific laugh she used around Sylvia, lighter than her real laugh, quicker, a little performative. And then she said, my mother who had hugged me in a kitchen in Burnaby and cried over my scholarship letter, she said. She's very proud of it, you know how she is. Always needed the gold stars. I don't think she knew I was 2 meters away. I genuinely don't think she knew. Sylvia said, well, it's good for her. Accounting is steady, like I'd become a dental hygienist. Like I hadn't just been made a partner at 31. I turned around. My mother's face did something complicated. Megan, it's fine, I said. And I meant it, actually. It was fine. It was the most clearly I had ever seen anything. I smiled at Sylvia. Good to see you. Glad you could come. And then the event coordinator touched my elbow and said, Ms. Osi Bonsu? They're ready for the partner introductions. They do it a specific way at this gala. The CEO of the firm stands at the podium and reads a short biography of each new partner, where they studied, their practice area, notable client work, community involvement. Then they invite each partner up to the stage to receive a small crystal award and shake hands for the photo. The room holds about 400 people. It was full. My bio took about 90 seconds. I heard my name, my full name Megan Bonsu, spoken into a microphone in a room of 400 people. I heard youngest partner in the firm's Vancouver office in over a decade. I heard led the cross-border restructuring for a portfolio of Western Canadian resource companies, and member of the firm's Diversity and Inclusion Leadership Committee, and recognized by business in Vancouver's 40 under 40. I walked up to that stage in heels that I had broken in specifically for this night, and I shook my managing director's hand, and someone took a photograph, and the room applauded. From the stage, I could see my mother. She was standing near the back because she and Sylvia had come in late and taken positions near the wall, and she was clapping. Both hands, fully. Her face had gone very still in the way faces go still when something catches you off guard and you need a moment to recalibrate. Sylvia was clapping too. Her expression was harder to read. I did not look at them for very long. I had 400 people in front of me and a photograph to be in and a glass of champagne waiting at my seat. I looked out at the room and I smiled. A real smile, not the polished one. And I walked back down off the stage. My mother found me about an hour later, during the dinner. She came to my table while I was mid-conversation with a client from the resource sector, and she waited. When there was a natural pause, she touched my shoulder and I turned. Can I talk to you for a moment? She said. We stepped away from the table, near a window that looked out over Burrard Inlet. The lights of the North Shore were strung across the water. It was a clear night, she said. I didn't know it was going to be like that. I said. What did you think it was going to be like? She looked out at the water. I thought it was just a dinner. It is a dinner, I said. It's also the night I was announced as a partner. She nodded slowly, and then she said, I'm sorry about what I said. In the lobby, I didn't know you were there. I know, I said. I don't know why I said it. I thought about telling her. I thought about explaining the whole pattern, the rerouting, the deference, the 30 years of checking whether Sylvia was impressed before deciding how to feel. I had the words. I'd had them for a long time. But standing there, looking at my mother next to a window over Burrard Inlet, while 400 people ate salmon and talked about business behind us, I didn't want to do it, not because I was afraid of the conversation, because I finally understood that having it wasn't going to give me what I'd always wanted from her. And I had stopped wanting it enough to fight for it, so I said, You don't have to know why, it's okay. She looked at me with something in her face that I hadn't seen there before. Not pride exactly. Closer to recognition, like she was meeting someone she'd known for a long time but had never quite focused on. You've done something real. She said. I know, I said, not with bitterness, just as a fact. She nodded. We stood there for another moment, the two of us, with the city outside the window and the noise of the room behind us. Then she said she should get back to Sylvia, and I said of course, and she squeezed my arm once and walked away. Priya texted me the next morning. She'd seen the firm's Instagram post about the new partners. Someone had tagged her in it. Look at you, she wrote. Also, your dress is incredible. Also, I'm crying in a Tim Hortons parking lot for old time's sake. I laughed out loud in my kitchen alone at 7:45 in the morning. The real laugh. My actual laugh. I thought about calling my mother, not to continue the conversation from the night before, not to make anything land that hadn't landed, just to check in, just to be her daughter. I thought about it for a while. Then I poured my coffee, put on my coat, and took the elevator down to the lobby and walked out into a Tuesday morning in Vancouver, where the mountains were out, and the air still had that early spring bite to it, and the city was already moving and humming, and going about its enormous indifferent life. And I walked into mine, The one I had built, the one that fit. I didn't need her to see it clearly to know it was real. It had been real for years. I had just spent a long time hoping that if I stood in the right light, she'd finally notice. She did, eventually. Not fully, maybe not ever fully, but enough, I think. Enough for her. And I had stopped needing it to be enough for me.